So I'm 21 years old, and I just graduated, and I've landed the perfect job. I'm going to be helping the Oakland Unified School District build out their new responses to student drug use, focusing on support rather than punishment. And I'm the perfect person for this role. Just a few years ago, I myself was a teenager who was struggling with drug use and was met by the system with shame, criticism, and judgment. The more I was labeled a problem child, the more I became a problem child. So I wasn't just here to be the adult that I wish I had growing up. I'm here to change the model of how society deals with adolescent drug use. I'm thinking big, I'm committed to this problem, and I care deeply about these students. So it's my first week on campus, and it's a crowded, vibrant school. During lunchtime, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing because my typical job is to meet with students on my caseload. So I see the principal of the school, a tall African-American man, standing in the front of the school, patrolling, greeting students by their first name. He has a natural charisma to be a leader, but also is a very empathetic discipliner. I approached him and I introduced myself as the new drug and alcohol coach and asked him if I could do anything to be helpful during lunchtime. He tells me that the troublemakers on my caseload are off the campus right now, and they usually leave the campus, go into the neighborhood, and smoke weed during lunchtime, and that I should go deal with that. I didn't really know what deal with that meant, but I was excited to show him that I'm the person that this school needed to turn things around. So I walk off the campus, and I soon quickly realize that I have a bit of an invisibility cloak on. I have a JanSport backpack on and cornrows in from Burning Man, and I look kind of like the students. So I'm taking in the sights and the sounds and the different groups, and I'm not really seeing anything. I'm ready to go back to campus and tell the principal that I did my job and we're good. When all of a sudden I freeze, I just walked by 3 young boys rolling a blunt on a blue recycling bin, and I didn't even blink. I think to myself, do I wait until they light up and then go and intervene? Do I just pretend I didn't see that and just walk away? I take a deep breath and I remind myself, this is my job, I'm the adult now. So I walk back up to the boys. They're still doing their thing, and they look at me, and one of them says, "What up?" And I'm like, they don't realize I'm staff. So I have to tell them, I actually work here. And 2 of them started to apologize profusely and pack up their bags. The other one kept rolling. And I look at them and I say, is this really what you want to be doing here? The air completely shifted. It went from an opportunity to build a meaningful connection to just judgment and shame. Of course, that's what they wanted to be doing there. What a stupid question. So the students walk with me back to the campus. They tell me it's never going to happen again. But I realized that there was no opportunity for a shared understanding of what happened. And I walked back to my office with my tail between my legs. I played out the exact script I'm here to rewrite. Not only am I mortified by my inability to connect with these students, I also am now scared about how am I going to change national drug policy if I can't even intervene in this critical moment and build a connection with the very students I came here to support. The next few weeks, I was a bit anxious in my job, and to be honest, I hid in my office for longer than I would like to admit, because I was afraid of being met with resistance and rejection again. One of my earlier students was a young boy named Griffin. Griffin was a freshman who got caught smoking weed on campus, and it wasn't his first offense. He was offered the opportunity to meet with me as a behavioral coach instead of getting suspended, so obviously he chose our sessions. But when I went to go pick up Griffin for our first drug and alcohol coaching session, he did not want to be there. His hoodie was pulled over his head. He didn't make eye contact with me. He just looked down the whole time. He didn't want to talk about drugs. He didn't want to talk to me at all. And I'm hearing the voice of the prince in my head that my job is to deal with these kids. But there was no way that I could actually talk about drug use with him. He's already been lectured about that. So I switched the gears, and I asked him, is there anything at this school or any hobbies or interests that you have? He holds back at first, wanting to just the session to be over, not actually wanting to open up a conversation, but then he tells me that he really loves writing. And I ask him if he's been doing any writing recently, and he admits that not really, and he actually hasn't been going to his English class for a while, and he feels a bit embarrassed about that. So I asked him if he'd be open to maybe we go together to his teacher and we have a conversation, and he agrees. So I walk him to the class, the teacher was on a break, and I use that as an opportunity to reintroduce Griffin as a student who really cares about school, who's been struggling but who's ready to start over again. The teacher's super enthusiastic because Griffin was one of his favorite students and he hasn't been to class for a while. He tells Griffin, don't worry about the past, we're gonna start over. Griffin left our session ready to begin again, but I left our session feeling like I failed at my job. By the standard metrics of what I was here to do, I didn't even talk about drug use. The next week, I go to pick up Griffin again for our usual weekly sessions, and to my surprise, he's chatty Cathy. He has even brought with me his journal to show me all the writings he's been doing in the past week, his raps, his poetries, and even his self-reflections. I'm so proud of him, I congratulate him, I tell him what a great writer he is and to keep going. But I still feel like a failure. The following week, I was 30 minutes late to pick up Griffin, and he texts me, "Where are you?" I still think to myself, this kid hates me. So when I pick up Griffin, to my surprise, he told me that writing has helped him realize that smoking weed was impacting his relationship with his parents, and it was causing more stress at home, and he wanted support in cutting back. I'm thrilled that Griffin wanted to change his relationship with weed, but I'm not taking any credit for this. After all, we haven't even talked about drugs. How could I and our relationship be making any impact on his decision? He was just a really bright kid. Griffin and I formed a really deep connection, and over the course of the year, he brought to our sessions other students that he thought would benefit also from these conversations. One of them was a young boy named Stefan. Stefan had not gotten caught at school for weed, which I am surprised about, because he was a young Caucasian boy with dreadlocks, a Grateful Dead tie-dye shirt, and a drug rug who didn't really go to class. Stefan wanted me to know that he was a drug user, and my first thought was, I need to help him change because using drugs when you're this young is really bad for your brain. But instead, I asked him, what would you like from our sessions? What kind of support do you want? And Stefan tells me that he actually wants to be me. I'm like, what does that mean? And he goes, well, I really like how you're educating kids about drugs and that you're not judging them and changing them. And I think that there's a lot of my friends who are not getting caught at school, who are flying under the radar, but who could really benefit from support. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, we could do that. What do you want to do? And he makes the suggestion that we create a drop-in support group so it's accessible, so kids didn't have to get in trouble to get support first. So we secure the space, he drafts the agenda, and we get this room on the 3rd floor of the high school. It was the attic that even the counselors didn't want to use. And within a month, we have about 15 freshmen to seniors packed into this room talking about drugs. In the front of the classroom was Stefan and Griffin leading the conversations. They had gone from just drug users to probably the best public health asset the school had. I'm watching them lead these conversations, everything from harm reduction to stigma and to mindfulness. And I'm also seeing these students who once viewed Stefan as Griffin as maybe the school mess-ups to actually being leaders of this space. Some days, though, the conversations got a little bit out of hand. Instead of talking about the negatives of the drugs, they were talking about all the drugs they were going to do that weekend, and I was freaking out. One day, I snap, and I just yell at them. What are we even doing here? Is this space even helping you guys? I feel like I'm just promoting you guys to keep using drugs. And the room gets completely quiet. And one by one, students look up to me and say, but Miss Rhana, I stopped taking Xanax since I joined this group. Miss Rhana, I realized that smoking weed was impacting every aspect of my life, including skateboarding. So I took a break, and then I realized I was happier sober. Miss Rhana, I stopped vaping nicotine. I'm stunned. I had no agenda of ever changing them, but by creating a space that was welcoming and accepting to them exactly as they were able to reflect on their relationships with drugs and make the changes they wanted on their own with each other's support, and I had no idea this was happening. At the end of the school year, a young boy comes to our door and asks to join our sessions. And I'm like, of course. And he goes, do you remember me? And I'm like, nope. And he says, I was the boy that you caught that first week at school. on the blue recycling bins rolling a blunt. And here he was coming back asking for support because he heard I was his teacher on campus that would actually support him. It was a full circle moment for me, a testimony that I had done the inner work to actually be the kind of person that these students wanted and to help them make the changes in their lives that they thought was most important. But I was pouring my heart and soul into this work. And meanwhile, 60% of high school students in California say they don't have a meaningful relationship with an adult at school. And I had no idea how to change these statistics. But meanwhile, across the pond, a professor of psychology here, Dr. Greg Walton, had partnered with legendary Oakland educator, Miss Hattie Tate. And together, they had created this platform to elevate youth voices. Youth who were leaving the juvenile justice hall and going back to school had a really high chance of getting sent back into detention. And with a simple letter delivery, they cut that chance by 40%. This intervention was actually not on the kids, it was on the adults. By changing the perceptions of these teachers from viewing these kids as troublemakers, or to make them stop being viewed as troublemakers, the kids stopped getting in trouble. It aligned with exactly the journey that I had to go through to build these relationships, these transformative relationships. And it also sparked a critical insight. 70% of suspensions and expulsions in California are drug-related. What if we applied this intervention at the point of contact rather than when they're coming back from the hall for the first place? So I emailed Dr. Walton, and a year later, I began my PhD. Our project, the Adaptation for Substance Use, is called More Than That, because when we ask kids, how do you want to be seen? They tell us they don't want to be seen as a drug-addicted, drug-using high school dropout. They are actually a good kid. They really care about their family. They want to make a difference in the world. And when we ask them, where do you want help? What support are you looking for? They say they want to graduate, that they have a hard time focusing in class, that they have a lot of energy and they don't know what to deal with it. And they tell us a teacher that they think that could be a source of support, and we deliver this letter to those teachers. And when we do, these adults burst into tears. They thank us and they tell us that this is what they needed to see, that they had no idea that their relationship was having any impact, and that in black and white, this letter is telling them what the student wants support on. I know why relationships are hard, and I know why adults burn out and why we resort to shame and punishment. But relationship building is also sacred work, and it's transformational work. And what lifting the bar and More Than That does is it removes the obstacles that get in the way of adults unconditionally believing in these young people. Because when we have those types of relationships, it could change the trajectory of a child's life, especially one who is struggling. It's so simple, but that's why we call this work ordinary magic. Thank you.